What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Ryan Meyer's Expeditions. This video follows an unbelievable day full of ukus and onos with Justin Lee.
Oh, big ass yellow spot.
Before we get started though, I've got to tell you a little story about a mistake I made that caused me to miss out on 6 weeks of diving. My trouble started a few days before this trip where I shot a giant pig all alone. Now I didn't recover this pig until super late at night, and because I was alone, I didn't quite know how to clean it myself, so I dragged it into the Red Rocket,
Really use a truck, guys.
took it home, and covered it in 200 pounds of ice. Now I figured I could just clean it the next day, no big deal, and I did. Cleaned the whole thing, no worries, and turned it into a huge batch of lau-laus that I took on the boat this day. Unfortunately, I didn't gut the pig, so this would later prove to be a fatal error. I showed up at the boat ramp at 10 o'clock at night, met Justin, showed off my beautiful lau-laus, and we each had only a single bite. We got on the boat, we drove for many hours all the way to the location. I felt incredibly bad the entire trip, but I had no idea that Justin did too. When we stopped the boat, we realized we were both completely poisoned by my bad lau-laus. So there was no going home. We had a full crew, great weather, a full day of diving ahead of us, and we had a long and miserable night. I really didn't think I was gonna be able to dive the next day, but I rallied and I struggled hard all day long. Because I was so sick all night, my sinuses were destroyed, but I dove on them anyways, and that would prove to be a critical error that cost me another 6 weeks of diving. Guys, stay tuned to watch and listen to this struggle.
You should go with that fast rod. So Justin does when he's waiting for the sunrise.
Sunrise.
What do you got, bro?
An uku.
You got
Mike.
Yeah. What you got, bro?
The biggest wahanui of all time.
Nah, it's a papio.
It's Papio with that tail, yeah?
Oh, big ass yellow spot.
Could be.
Bro, it's an uku. Is it? Yeah.
No
Told you
shit.
there's ukas around here.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How big?
Like 5 pounds.
Bro!
Oh no, it's
No, it's
Papio.
Papio.
Yeah, I was like,
Nice little blue spot, though. Look at that. Check that out.
He's gonna come home.
That was a catch of the day right there, bro. I hope it doesn't stay the catch of the day, bro.
So there's something kind of crazy about jumping in the dark without a flashlight. And that's exactly what happened this morning. And the only thing that kind of kept us alive was like, I know that the sun is coming up. Like, it's only getting lighter. It's not the other way around. It's not getting darker. But we still swam around for like 10, 15 minutes completely without able to see anything, waiting to see if miraculously we bumped into an ono, but unfortunately we didn't. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about sinuses and ears and eustachian tubes and kind of how the whole thing works and kind of what I did wrong this day. Now, the first thing to understand is that there's a difference between your sinuses and your ears. And once you can kind of make that distinction, it'll help you diagnose any problems you have and prevent any of those problems that kind of go with each of those different things. So on this first dive, you'll notice that I feel really, really bad and my sinuses are clogged, but I haven't done the damage net yet to cause the squeaks. So you don't hear my sinuses squeaking, and that squeaking comes from when they're super inflamed, the actual tissue in there, not the mucus, the actual tissue gets super inflamed from the trauma of being forced to be, you know, kind of the pressure being wrong. Like on your way up, there's not too much pressure. On the way down, you know, it's the other way around. And this trauma causes them to inflame over and over. And that's what's gonna cause those squeaks later in the video. But this first dive, all I am is full of mucus and I'm starting the damage right now. And I get down here to the bottom. I actually told Perrin, I was like, yo, watch me, buddy, because I feel really bad, but I think I saw an uku down there, so I'm gonna do a deeper dive, see if I can get down to the bottom, the 80, 90 feet, see if I can make this happen. And luckily got down there, did my grunts, did my dusting, my scratching, and it worked out for this fish. So whenever we're hunting over here, we're always keeping our eye out for onos. And on a random drop, this is what I saw right here. I didn't have an opelu out yet, but I could see him kind of cruising around out there in the shadows. I immediately looked down to my opelu, dropped it, hoping that he'd come back over and check it out. Turns out he did. He made the turn. He was coming in on my Opelu right here, and I make a lot of mistakes on this dive. I come down at the Opelu as he's coming in here at the Opelu, and because of that, I'm another predator now that's going after that fish. And because I'm bigger than him, he kind of leaves and gives it to me. Now, if I would have gone out to the right side instead and gone out and casually been on the edge of that whole situation, observing, maybe he would have come in a little bit further, committed to that Opelu, and I could have made that fish happen. Instead, he dropped down, I scared him, and then he went over here, over towards Perrin's chum slick, and he left my situation for a better option. So he comes over to Perrin here, and then Perrin does a dive, and I'm not exactly sure if he ate any of Perrin's chunks or what happened, but we know that we're gonna be on these spots kind of all day long, and we know that these same couple Onos are gonna be cruising around. So we're both kind of being conservative. We don't wanna take long shots. We don't wanna scare these fish. We don't wanna wound these fish. We know that we've got a very, very good chance of having another opportunity at them throughout the day. And that's something that all of you guys can absolutely employ. If you're out there on a spot and you know you just got there, don't take that Hail Mary shot on that Ono or that Mahi or whatever it is. Wait, because a lot of times you'll get another opportunity a little bit later and it'll be a better opportunity and you can make it happen.
Nice fish. Yeah, I came through, ate mine, and then came over to yours.
So now in this clip here, you can really start to hear those squeaks. And what that is I'm actually holding my hand on my nose. So I've lost my hands-free equalization, not because I need to hold my nose to clear my eustachian tubes or my ears, but because I have to hold my nose to force air into the sinuses. And as I do this more and more and more throughout the day, I'm basically causing more and more damage. Every time I have to force air in there, it gets a little bit more inflamed. And every time I come up and that air has to force its way out, it's a little bit more inflamed. And all that stuff in there just causes damage. And that's not just mucus in there, that's your actual tissues in there bleeding and being stressed. And that is what took 6 weeks to go away. Now, if the first time I heard this squeak throughout the day, in the morning or whatever, I quit, now maybe I only needed a day to recover, or 2 days, or whatever it was. Instead, it took me 6 weeks because I went all day long like this. But luckily, got down here to the bottom. It was sort of worth it, but probably not really. And beautiful uku came right in. I was able to put a nice solid shot right there in the gill plate and land this fish.
Hey, Justin! You! Oh no, coming your way! Oh no's! Hey, Barrett! Oh no's!
So as soon as Justin shot that Ono with the reel gun, it started ripping line. I knew he didn't have a belt reel on. So my first job is just swim over to that float line, see if I can grab it, unclip it, and go swim to him to clip it onto his gun. Unfortunately, he lost the fish before I even got a chance to get over there. So sometimes I'll do a kind of observation dive or a scouting dive or a mid-water dive. And what's really key about those dives is they don't develop into a going to the bottom dive. That's when it gets really, really dangerous. So maybe I'll do this if I'm not sure what the bottom looks like, if I'm not sure if I'm over reef, or maybe my buddy's not quite next to me at the moment, he's preoccupied and I just want to go down and kind of see what's going on, but I don't want to go all the way to the bottom, make a full dive. So that's what I did right here. You can hear how much worse those squeaks are getting. Those sinuses are getting worse and worse by the moment, every single dive I do. But I'm still down here. I want to go look and see what's going on. And on my way to the bottom, this is probably like 115, 110, something like that. On my way down to that midwater, I hover and I look around and I see what I see, and then I see a couple ukus. Now the key here is not to go over and shoot those ukus, because if I wanted to do that, I would have had to prepare a little bit differently. I would have had to fall all the way down to the bottom and hunt properly. Instead, I note where they are, I note kind of what they're doing, and I turn around and I go back up. And that's one of the most deadly things people do, is they turn around and go back to the bottom when they shouldn't. Perrin strikes next with a beautiful uku. I think this one actually turned out to be the uku of the day. And pay attention right here to what Justin does. While Perrin is fighting this fish up, Justin immediately drops to go check on the fish. He wants to make sure that that fish does not need a second shot and it is not in any kind of risk of falling off. Now, you don't just want to second shoot everything. You know, you unload your gun, it puts another hole in the fish. It's not always necessary. But you also don't want to lose a fish unnecessarily. So Justin goes down, he checks it out, he sees that the flopper is good, there's no risk of tearing out, he can come back up and prepare for his next dive. Justin Lee strikes next here with another beautiful uku, and you can kind of learn a little bit from this clip here. Now, see how close together we are? I'm watching him, especially on these deeper dives. See how that fish is just below him? That's because he's holding onto the reel. Because he stoned that fish, he doesn't want a lot of reel line to go out. He knows that he can get that fish up quickly, not lose a lot of line, and then recover and prepare for another dive immediately. You can see he comes up, immediately puts that gun behind him, and goes for that reel line, starts pulling that thing up to the surface, swims forward just a little bit to kind of keep it out of his way, and lands another freaking incredible fish out here. So I strike next with another uku. Unfortunately, my GoPro is dead for the shot, but super cool to end up in this just uku mecca. And right after me, I say, Justin, there's another one right down there. See if you can get down there and get his buddy. He goes down, stones that one. Just a pretty sick one little spot to double up on 2 more ukus. So we move spots here, and then I do another dive, and you can really hear how bad those sinuses are getting. And basically what's happening is that tissue is just getting more and more damaged, more inflamed, and the actual airspace in those sinuses is getting smaller because that tissue is getting bigger. And that is why those squeaks are getting tinier and tinier, because I'm really struggling to get any kind of air in there at all. But when you're in a place like this, it's so difficult to go up and sit on the boat. You can see how much life there is down there, that big omilu, a whole school of stud moanakalis that I would have shot any other day, anywhere else in the world. However, just gotta put the gun on to see that I could do it, and then flip back around to the right to get one of these ukus. When I flip back around and look out in the sand, I can see that there's not one, but 2 beautiful ukus that are coming right in. I managed to really kind of take my time, decide which one is going to be the bigger fish. I know my buddy's above me. I've got plenty of time down there on the bottom. I line up, take my time, and get a perfect stone shot on another fantastic fish on this unbelievable day of spearfishing. And again, I tell Justin, I'm like, though, there was another one right there. I stoned this one, so that one's probably still there. He does a perfect dive down there. Again, the stone shot master gets another one, and we double up again. Now, this is kind of cool technique to kind of be more efficient in the water. I gave him my fish. I reloaded my gun, and now that my gun is loaded, and he has 2 fish in his hand and he has to reload his gun, then I'll take both fish back from him. And what that does is kind of become just more efficient as a team in the water. You want to keep those guns loaded as much as possible and ready to dive. So we moved spots one more time, hit the last spot of the day, and as soon as I jumped in the water, saw this ono. Now I threw my opelu, and I already kind of had a little bit of a chum slick going down. So he kind of came in, he was kind of interested. I did a tiny little dive there, and then I wanted to back off. I knew that he wasn't coming into that opelu anymore. I wanted to back off, come to the surface, let my opelu fall, let my kind of chum go down, and then prepare myself for another dive. You always, anytime you're on the surface like this, you want to be in breathe up mode. You want to be preparing, because you have no idea what's going to happen when you do your dive. You might get down there, have some problems to deal with. You might have to hold for a really long time. You might have to do an exhale dive. Who knows? So you're preparing on the surface, and then you're ready to do your next dive. He came into his chum. I did what I thought was the proper thing. I'm kind of off to the right side of the chum. I'm moving really nice and slow. I'm hovering, and he comes in, and I'm thinking, this is it. I've got you. You're within range right now. And right here on the extension, the thing freaking bolts. It does its little cool sway, wavy turn to go away, just like it's laughing at me. I look down. I can see ukus in my chum slick. I come back up. I'm like, I can't be that upset at this, oh no, leaving. I can still go down, pick up this next uku. So on the surface, no rush. Again, I know that uku isn't going to go anywhere. He was there when I got here. He's on this spot. This is where he lives. Now I've given him food. So I've given him no reason at all to leave until I scare him. So when I go down, I'm not going to approach the fish. I don't want to shoot him in the chum slick if I'm in water that's shallow enough that I can make it to the bottom. So that's what this is right here. It's like 90 feet. I know I can get down to the bottom, and as soon as I hit that bottom, hopefully, if everything goes well and I have a nice hiding spot and he's curious, he'll come straight into me. So that's pretty much exactly textbook what happened. I got in this little shadow right on the deep side of the ledge, and as soon as I hit the bottom, this thing came right over, presented a perfect shot, was able to cheek meet this thing, and land my last fish of the day just on an unbelievable spearfishing trip with such good friends and such just a good time, despite being so sick all day long, getting no sleep, and almost poisoning everybody on the boat. Back in the kitchen now with these two ukus, and we are going to fillet them up real quick, and then we're gonna do like this kind of really simple recipe that me and Sam love. Check out these new hats. RMX, we're working on the merch, guys. We're gonna keep adjusting it, finding out what hats we like best, learning about the logo and design and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys wanna buy a hat, buy a t-shirt, let us know down below. Maybe that'll motivate us to work a little bit harder to get these things out and ready for you guys.
My mom is an incredible cook, and this simple dish is probably one of her best creations. All you need for this is butter, Italian breadcrumb, and lemon, but these 3 ingredients pack a major flavor punch. First, we're melting enough butter to thoroughly soak our breadcrumb. Then we're gonna slowly mix in butter with our breadcrumbs so that it's completely wet with butter, but not liquidy. We're adding a little squeeze of lemon as a final touch, and our breadcrumb is ready to go. We're gonna salt and pepper the fish and then spoon the breadcrumb mixture in an even layer just on the top of each fillet. As the fish cooks, the butter will seep down into the meat, but the breadcrumb will stay on top, forming a little bit of a mild crust. We're pre-packaging these in tin foil to cook over the fire at the Hualalai Archery Club, but you can bake these in the oven until your fork can easily separate the meat.
Oh, 3 to the right again.
Fish is good.
Yeah?
This is really good. Way better than your last one.
That's really good.
It's good, huh? Love that. Plenty of meat, guys.
Meat on
The
meat.
spread here is always fantastic. All right, what do you guys think?
Good.
Yeah, it's good? No fish? What do you think?
Thank you for watching.